When it comes to a zombie stalking and harassing, it's rarely obvious. It's not behaviors that you think of when you think stalking and harassment. They are behaviors that could look like being nice to you or looking out for your best interests and your well-being. Right. Never mind the track record and the historical events. These are of no consequence anymore. Because now the zombie's being nice and is hoovering to get you back in so it can start feeding on you again. You know, that's the thing. The vast majority of this stuff is not obvious. If it was, there wouldn't be a fucking problem for the most part, you know? You could take one look, go, eee. Well, I need to stay away from that fucking guy or that thing. Jesus, what? Ugh. Yikes! I don't even know. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do about that? You just leave it alone. Put it in an enclosure. Keep it far away from here. Well, I don't know, Dave. Maybe we can teach it some tricks. If you want, wear protection. You know. Just be careful. Zombies hate boundaries too. They fucking hate boundaries. They see boundaries as obstacles to overcome. And some of them will see it as like you abusing them. Your boundaries to protect yourself are abusive to the zombie in zombie logic. And there's a lot of questions that people ask, like, well, you know, when they're still in the shit. And they'll go around looking, is there any way to maintain a relationship with a zombie? And there's there's a few folks out there, some professionals by either extensive experience and application of research and data, and you're trained professionals. But for the most part, and there are some trained professionals who really are fucking great, but for the most part, come take somebody who's been in the shit. But anyways, is there any way to maintain the relationship with the zombie? They'll go, well, and they'll sugarcoat it. And that's part of the process. It just takes a while to understand. But anyway, beyond the sugarcoating, it's no, sorry. I mean, you've got it's like the velociraptors in Jurassic Park, constantly testing the perimeter. And as soon as the opportunity strikes, bam, they're out of that enclosure and they're running a fucking muck on Jurassic Park Island, and just, that's no good for anybody or anything in Jurassic Park. Anything else except the raptors. Unlike raptors, well, presumably, I don't know of any real raptors out there. I've read a lot of things about what's said about raptors that existed long ago, but anyway. Unlike raptors, there's no homogeny with the environment. A lot of zombies like to, the more self-aware ones, like to think of themselves as, and relate to predatory animals or fictional predatory creatures, and they'll venerate them. But that's not what's going on with a zombie. It's more like an infection, metaphorically speaking. And mythologically speaking, I suppose you could say. A raptor is as a raptor does, because it's a raptor. And there's homogeneity with its blueprint and its environment. And the whole fucking system they're in. But a zombie is a bit more like a locust. A virus. Just eating and consuming. And if the zombie runs out of top shelf supply, or secondary supply, or tertiary supply, well, the zombie and whatever pack of zombies it may be running with start turning on themselves. They're picking at and eating each other, fighting over scraps. It's such a multifaceted issue. And, there's a thing. I find most things are neither this nor that, but they're this and that. Sometimes they're more dichotomous. But on one hand, you have, in many of these cases, something of a human being, but also not. And something of a relationship, but also not. Because you can't have a relationship with something that's eating you. And or trying to hunt you back down after you've gotten away. So yeah, I don't care much for, I don't care much for the more aggressive takes on this stuff, but it's part of the whole fucking equation. So that's kind of part of what I'm showing here, by example. Part of enlightenment, if you will, because enlightenment does not mean imagining figures of light over the darkness, but by making the darkness conscious. Carl Gustav Jung. That's Carl Jung, quote. And you've got compassion for these people creatures too, but they've also done you a lot of harm, and a lot of other people a lot of harm, and are doing themselves a lot of harm, feeding into that Faustian bargain of a developmental coping system. I'm not suggesting necessarily that there was any choice necessarily in electing that, although in some instances there may have been. I don't know. I don't fucking know. But ultimately, it's not so much that matters, it's what did they do after finding out? Did they keep it going? Or did they start making the darkness conscious? Is that something a zombie can even do in that regard? In a way that's transformative? Yeah. I mean, for a lot of them, yeah. I bet for quite a few, it's possible. It probably takes some innovation and some unconventional understandings. But like the Sith and Dark Force users in Star Wars, they're addicted to the dark side. It's like a drug. And to fill that emptiness is the need for fuel. And fuel is something coercively extracted from the metaphorical living. It's another thing about enlightenment. It seems to suggest that, if you're enlightened, you're just a positive ray of sunshine at all times. I think this is a very narcissistic presentation. A very synthetic presentation. A very misleading presentation. Because that's not an integrated system. That's not shadow work. That's avoidance. And playing high and mighty. And blaming, projectively. Via projective identification, perhaps. Or saying something like, it is all the ego and the pain body. Suggesting that these things are just trivialities, arbitrary things to be ignored. and that they can be sustainably invalidating the ego as well, as if it is some arbitrary thing. It isn't. But it can be utilized in an upside-down system. The upside down, like in Stranger Things, in an upside-down way, as a consequence of adapting to sociopathic methods, behaviors, and value systems, becoming an extension of them, or anything in between. Yeah, I think that's about it for now. I do prefer the softer side of things. But occasionally, you get mad. And anger is not a bad thing. Anger is not a negative emotion. It's what you do with it. It can get you pissed off about some of the horrible things that were done to you. And that's not meant to be buried or denied. It's not good for your system. Well, things that are happening to you right now. You know. Anger can also be a gateway to start a process of grieving. A lot of people don't know how to do it. They've never been taught and not allowed to, in many cases either. And then haven't taught themselves, or whatever the case may be from there. Or didn't even know that that was an option. It is, just FYI. Because grieving is a way of, kind of purging and enabling growth as opposed to stagnation in many respects. And processing. Tough stuff. And a lot of people don't honor themselves or value themselves enough to even start doing that. It's not a judgment. It's just an observation. And it's one that I came from and was like. Lifetime of gaslighting. And then self-gaslighting. By extension. And when I say honor and value oneself, I mean the whole fucking package deal. Not just the construct. The environment within and around oneself. Everybody's unconscious mind looks like to me, looks like a landscape, a multi-dimensional landscape, a lot of different places and things going on, and some of the darker ones will have like this disavowed aspect of themselves in there, almost like a misguided guardian protecting that place in the wrong way, keeping it dark when sunlight is the best disinfectant. Yeah. Okay, I think that's about it for now, for real this time. And thanks for tuning in.